I usually do about 2 or 3 takes. This is take number 2 on this video because I just couldn't get my act together on the first take. But there are so many songs I want to do tonight that I'm going to keep it to 1 take on each record from here on out tonight. If it sounds a little rough, I apologize for that. But anyway, Mr. DJ's going to wing it tonight. Billboard's Hot 100. We are going back to the summer of 1964. The Beach Boys, the Beatles, the Supremes, the Four Tops, the Dave Clark Five, riding high in 1964. Rising hit records by Gene Pitney. And, well, minor hits by the Shirelles and Neil Sedaka. There's an Everly Brothers on this Hot 100 I might want to play for you later on. But right now, coming in at number 22 on Billboard's Hot 100 that week, July 25th, 1964, up from 31, it is Nancy Wilson, a jazz singer. You don't know how glad I am. A lost 45. For all practical purposes, it should have just gone up to number 98. Because the Oldie stations are not going to play it. Nancy Wilson, 70 albums in her career. Very prolific artist. Considered a consummate entertainment. I hope I pronounced consummate correctly. She could sing blues, jazz, pop, R&B, cabaret. She's performed in some prestigious nightclubs. I'll get into that in just a minute. She grew up listening to her father's records. Nat King Cole, Jimmy Scott, Lionel Hampton's big band. There's this juke joint down the street, had this big old jukebox. They were throwing down some R&B, the classic R&B and jazz and blues by Dana Washington, Laverne Baker singing Twiddly Dee, and also Ruth Brown. Yes, Lucky Lips, I believe, was one of her hits. Back in the 50s, back in the sock hop years, between 1955 and 1963. That's a sock hop, that would be for my sock hop channel. Later on, by the late 50s, she was performing 4 nights a week at a nightclub in New York City called Blue Morocco. During the daytime, she was working at the New York Institute of Technology. Then she got a deal with Capitol Records in 1960. They liked her demos. First hit record, well, it wasn't really a hit. It was called Guess Who I Saw Today. But it was successful enough. At least in Capitol's eyes, it was successful. So successful that they put out 5 albums by Nancy Wilson between 1960 to 62. Think about that. That's like about 2 albums a year. So 2.5 albums a year, something like that. And Cannonball Adderley. Oh my goodness, Cannonball Adderley. She met Cannonball Adderley. Remember that hit he had back in 67? Mercy, 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 that jazz standard. Well, it was a jazzy version of the Buckingham's record. That was in 67. But he was already well known in the jazz world. But interestingly enough, he talked Nancy Wilson into moving away a little bit from jazz. Just kind of shift. A seismic shift. Not boom, just a little bit. Let's move it towards a more pop and R&B direction. Well, they released an album together. Cannonball Adderley and Nancy Wilson released an album called Nancy Wilson and Cannonball Adderley. It was successful. And 1963, she had a record out called Tell Me the Truth, which was successful. That led to some performances, to her playing at the Coconut Grove. Coconut Grove, I think of just fancy nightclub, white tie, gowns, high class. And then she had that hit, her biggest hit, 1964. You Don't Know How Glad I Am. A little bit of blues, tad of blues, a little bit of cabaret, a little bit of R&B, a little bit of jazz. A complete showcasing of Nancy Wilson's vocal talents. The song was covered by other people. Kiki Dee redid it in the 70s. It was her follow-up to I Got the Music in Me, which did very well in England. But it was also covered by Bonnie Bramlett of Delaney and Bonnie. Also, Aretha covered it, and another surprise, Maria McKee did a version of that. Maria McKee, she was the lead singer of a group called Lone Justice. They had I can't hardly get too excited. They had a hit in 1985 called Ways to Be Wicked, Lone Justice. Wow, I didn't know that about her doing the Nancy Wilson record. Well, here it is, Nancy Wilson, right in the teeth of the British invasion, going to number 5. Well, number 11 rather, with How You Don't Know How Glad I Am, 1964 gold.